One of the things that new entrepreneurs complain about is the confusion over not knowing how much to charge. And it's understandable because, of course, when you first start out, especially if you haven't been surrounded by service providers who can school you about pricing, it can be intimidating. On one hand, you want to make sure that you're pricing your services high enough so that you can actually pay your bills and earn what you're worth. And on the other hand, you don't want to price yourself too high that you end up pricing yourself out of the market. And if truth be told, you'd rather not even have to think about what to charge and could just be paid fairly for your services. Now, social workers aren't the only ones with this problem, but I can almost guarantee that if you're an enterprising social worker, you're not charging enough. I know this because I talk to y'all. In fact, I've never met a social worker who overcharges for their services. Most of us undercharge, and in the end, you end up feeling like you've been given the short end of the stick. I also know because I've been there myself. And I have to say, it feels so good to be on the other side of the equation now, having a firm grasp on pricing and feeling good about sharing my high-ticket packages with others. Now, here's my disclaimer. This pricing conversation is a big topic. And just like social work itself, there are nuances to how your pricing will play out in real life. That said, while this conversation can't be entirely comprehensive, by the end of this video, you should have a better understanding of how to think about pricing as a social work entrepreneur and feel better about charging for your services. And if you're new here, welcome to Rich Social Worker. I'm Eva Ford, social worker, mindset mentor, and online business coach. So if you know you've been looking for steps, strategies, and systems to grow your impact and your income, you are definitely going to want to subscribe, stick around, and turn on the notification bell so that you know every time I upload a new video. Now, let's get into it because you want to make sure that as you grow your business, you're pricing your products and services in a way that aligns with the value that you give and supports your highest good. So there are two parts to this conversation. One part has to do with your mindset when it comes to money and pricing and your beliefs about worth. And the other part has to do with the actual mechanics of what pricing looks like for your business. So think of them as two sides of the same coin because it's kind of impossible to have a poor money mindset and have prices that represent your true value and worth. Which brings us to the first idea about pricing, in that value and worth are ideas. In fact, any conversation you'll have about money has much less to do with the actual cost of something and much more to do with the idea of what that cost represents. There used to be a time in man's history when physical currency of money didn't exist. So societies would exchange goods and services through bartering. Currency or monetary systems were developed as a way to stabilize means of exchange for growing economies. But get this. Initially, copper, silver, and gold were used as common denominators for value. But ever since 1971, when then U.S. President Nixon dismantled the U.S. dollar's convertibility to gold, most currencies around the world aren't attached to any precious metal's worth.
Accordingly, I have directed the Secretary of the Treasury to take the action necessary to defend the dollar against the speculators. I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets, except in amounts and conditions determined to be in the interest of monetary stability and in the best interest of the United States.
This is a dollar because the U.S. government says it's a dollar. This is a $1,000 Jamaican note because the Jamaican government says that's what it is. There is no inherent value in the piece of paper because it's not attached to anything of value except the government's decree. So when we talk about your prices representing your value and worth, please understand that this value and worth is what you decree it to be. You are in charge of the government of you. The truth is, it's impossible for any of us to ever earn what we're worth because worth and value are ideas. So it's imperative that you raise your idea of what you classify as your value and your worth. The funny thing is that when you let go of the idea that money is real, you can actually start to think about price in a way that allows you to earn what you're worth. Aside from falsely thinking that money is real, one of the biggest beliefs that holds most social work entrepreneurs back in their pricing is the thought that people that need their services can't afford them. Now, I have several thoughts about this because on one hand, I know exactly where you're coming from. You're a trained social worker. You were trained to focus on vulnerable populations and to identify disparities and equities so that you could help and alleviate them, and on and on and on. I get it. That perspective is valid and necessary, and the world would be a much better place if everyone had it. And if you're working in a traditional social work role, you get to focus on solutions for your clients. You don't have to think about where the money comes from for you to do your job. But as an entrepreneur, you do. In fact, you end up doing yourself and the mission you set out to accomplish a disservice when you don't think about where the money comes from and who can pay you. See, most social work entrepreneurs I talk to think about this backwards. They think about helping the vulnerable populations that can't afford their services first, before they think about who can pay them. And here it is, folks. You've got to be able to make more money than you spend in order to help anyone. See, there are actually people who can afford to pay you and who do need your skills and services as well. If you can develop a treatment plan, you can use those same skills to develop a marketing plan. If you can coordinate a case conference, you can develop partnerships for local businesses. Outside of the arena of traditional social work practice, your skills and services are still valuable in the marketplace. And the best part is that the wider marketplace already puts a premium on your skills and perspective. So they're primed and ready to pay you higher wages, unlike many traditional social work posts that have set budgets that don't respect the value that you bring. And as you set prices that represent the skills and expertise you bring to the table, you then create the financial freedom and space to give back to the communities more generously than if you try to sell your services to those people that can't afford them first. Like I said, there is so much more I could say about this, but let's move on to a third thing that I've shared on the channel before that holds entrepreneurs back in their pricing. And that is an inherent belief that wealth is somehow wrong or bad. Now, we've already talked about the fact that money is an idea, but if you've practiced a belief that having lots of money is somehow negative, or that people with lots of money are somehow inherently evil, stingy, or mean, chances are you're going to price your products and services in a way that resonates with those ideas. Our brains hate nothing more than to entertain conflicting ideas. So if you're holding on to beliefs about money or wealth being wrong, you're going to price your products and services based on those beliefs so that you can avoid the mental pain of having clashing conditions. The result might be that you end up undercharging for your services, again, earning less than your worth, and you may even end up harboring resentment towards those who do charge more, who may not even have the same integrity or quality that you do when it comes to delivering on their promises. And on that note, what someone else charges has nothing to do with you. It's none of your business. If their clients are willing to pay those prices, that's an example of an aligned exchange of perceived value on each party's part. And you can do the same. Listen, I know this is a real challenge for social workers, which is why I created a workbook to help you create a wealthy mindset and start to unravel some of those unlimiting beliefs about money so that you can start to replace them with empowered, abundant beliefs to support your highest good. You can find that link for that workbook in the description below. So now that we've highlighted a few of the mindsets that interrupt our pricing process, let's talk about the mechanics of pricing. And on that note, there are two big buckets for understanding pricing methods. Cost-oriented pricing methods use the price of the finished goods to calculate the cost of a product. This includes models like cost plus pricing, markup pricing, and target returning pricing, all of which determine the price of a product by adding a percentage in addition to the cost of making the product. The second big pricing method bucket is market-oriented pricing, which relies on market research to base its pricing and includes the sub-pricing strategies such as value-based pricing, competitive pricing, and auction-type pricing. Now, it's likely that you'll use a combination of two or more of any of the pricing strategies, but most of the time when I talk to social workers, we're talking about value-based pricing. So I want to talk about it here too, because this is where you have the greatest opportunity to capitalize on that valuable knowledge and skills of yours, while at the same time giving your high-paying clients an opportunity to happily exchange money for that value. So value-based pricing is not based on the cost to produce your product or service. It's actually based on the value that your customer thinks they are getting, the perceived value from purchasing your product or service. There's tons of research that shows how our brains make buying decisions. Spoiler alert, your emotions are in control. People tend to associate businesses with higher prices as being more prestigious, more competent, and as a result, more desirable. They also assume that a higher price indicates that the product or service quality is high as well. This means that as long as you can show the high value you provide, the big problem you can help them solve, and can provide a great experience for your customers, your pricing becomes irrelevant. That's why it's so important for social workers to learn how to position themselves as experts and present their products and services in a way that properly translates the value to consumers outside of social work circles. So often I hear social workers talk about their service benefits in terms of lofty and ambitious ideas. But to elevate the perceived value of your offers, you've got to be able to articulate and show your clients the exact benefits and transformations you can help them achieve in a way that makes it comfortable for them to buy. In business, there's a common saying that people do business with people that they know, like, and trust. And as an entrepreneur, you can raise your value by infusing that know, like, and trust factor in everything you do as well. And guess what? You get to influence what that perceived value is. It's made up of the audience you choose, the stories you tell, the quality of your goods and services, the caliber of your communication, like your branding and social proof, and everything that impacts your customer's point of view. The thing I like about this method is that you get to control how you raise your prices as you raise the perceived value of your product or service, and your customers are happy to pay for it. Now, keep in mind, when you use this type of pricing model, we've left the realm of hourly rates. We're talking about packages that outline expected results. So when you're coming up with your prices, you're recognizing the value of your years of learning, your depth of understanding, your ethical and value-based approach, and your unlimited bag of resources. And you're keeping that in mind while at the same time showing your customers how you help them save countless hours of overwhelming confusion, how you help them shortcut the distance from where they are to where they actually want to be, and remove the blocks in their awareness so that they can more easily reach their desired goals. I hope you can see how you can use value-based pricing to better represent the true value that you bring to your buyers. And on that note, I have a challenge for you. Your challenge is to come up with a $2,000 service-based product for an audience that, number one, wants it, and number two, can pay you for it. So you're gonna figure out what the problem is that you're gonna help them solve. You're gonna map out the milestones to reach that solution and any steps in the process that are necessary to help them achieve it. Now, how can you raise the perceived value of your solution? Will you make it exclusive? Will you add on a bonus? Will it have a limited time offer? Or will you throw in an additional feature? Here's a hint. When the perceived value of your offer outweighs the actual dollar amount that you've listed, your customers will happily say yes. Now, if this seems like an insurmountable challenge, it might be because either you still haven't figured out how to package your knowledge and skills into a product or service that someone will want to buy, or you've never invested in a high ticket offer yourself and you haven't developed an appreciation for high ticket prices, or maybe you have a limited awareness of what things cost outside of discounted social work budgets and it's made you a big bargain shopper. In any case, if you're ready to learn how to package your knowledge and skills into high-ticket products and services, I've got a free 15-minute business strategy call with your name on it. Just follow the link in the description below. As always, I believe you can dream, be, do, or have anything you want, but it starts with your mindset, so make sure it's a rich one. See you in the next video.